buat video kami yang ke-6. Oke, jadi ini hari kami buat reaction video. Tapi sorry lah, kami punya reaction video nih bakal pelik-pelik sih kan.
Tapi shock. Ternyata kamu pun bershokan nih kalau tengok nih.
Sambil-sambil kita meriak, sambil-sambil kita tambah pengetahuan baru tentang inilah,
Yaitu mengenali hewan dan kita melihat cara mereka mengawan.
bukan dong, gilamu. Aduh malu.
Suka, kamu tinggal suka. Tidak Pak, kami mau react pasal hewan yang beranak ataupun yang bertelur. Mesti kita tahu kan, macam mana sotok bertelur, sama ada bertelur nggak beranak, macam mana ada yang mengawan.
Oke, jadi tajuk kami tengok ini dari YouTube, The Most Incredible Births in the World. Oke, kasih bola.
Mulai jangan terlalu.
1, 2, 3. Intro dulu video dia.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone. Meow.
If you have pets like cats or dogs, then you may have seen how they give birth. There's nothing particularly surprising about this. Mammals are quite simple creatures.
Kami dikundas.
Bodoh amat.
Ya.
Not all living things are born in the same way. Moreover, some of the creatures on our planet breed so strangely that it might blow your mind. And today, you will see this with your own eyes. Let's get it on.
Sejuk betul lagi sih kalau mau excited.
Surinam Sea Toads.
Apa nih?
Attention,
Surinam
if you suffer from
Sea Toad.
trypophobia, that is, you are afraid of clusters of holes, then you better not sit too close to the screen.
What is that?
Surinam Sea Toad is a species of amphibians of the Pipidae family that lives in South America. This toad looks just like a frog, but a very flat one, as if it was steamrolled. The body has a protective color in the form of spots. The forelimbs of the toad have no membranes, because they are designed for digging holes and silt. Surinam sea toads eat everything they find on the bottom, including worms, mollusks, and organic remains. But the most interesting thing about this creature is not its diet, but the way it reproduces. Before the process, the female and the male perform a mating dance. Then the female spawns eggs directly into the water, where the fertilization process takes place. Then the female dives down and catches the eggs, which get embedded on her back. There the offspring is developing. However, if a female hatches eggs for the first time, she does not have any holes yet. The male has to help her. He presses her hind legs against her back and makes a separate honeycomb for each egg. Then the female has to wait until the embryos are formed. Eggs on her back are injected with a special secretion, which protects them from external
bertelurr
damage.
terus anak dia
When
di
the time
belakang.
comes, fully
Oh my
developed small
god,
toads
baru
appear from
perasan.
the mother's back, ready for an independent life. After their birth,
Geli.
the mother slowly
Muntah.
sheds the thin layer of skin
Muntah bah,
used
tapi
to
asal
carry
yang
them
lubang-lubangan
and
geli,
start
yang ada
cycling.
lubang-lubang, yang luka-luka pun.
Centipede.
Macam
Centipedes are
centipede.
called the
Depan.
absolute worst kind of insects. And for a good reason. They are not the most pleasant creatures. In addition, some of the species are also poisonous.
Syok ang kata tadi kan,
Scientists
nak
know
lubang-lubang.
8,000
Syok
species
pasal.
of various centipedes
Syok.
living in
Ya,
different
itu
parts
dah
of the
bilang
world.
kempes.
Script writers
Kempes,
use the image of a
kempes.
centipede to make
Malor
their
syok,
scripts
kempes.
more
Syok.
creepy. But the looks are nothing compared to their breeding process.
Ini dia beranak,
Anyone who
lipan.
sees that with their own eyes could easily become
Lipan tukar
horrified and
kulit
run
aja
away.
macam lipan. Macam ular.
There is a centipede species that does not require males for breeding. Yes, nature can do
Punya
this sort
kok.
of thing. The female guards the laid eggs in a hole for several weeks,
Begitu dia jaga
clasping
telur
them with her
dia.
feet.
Jangan sih
At this
begini,
point,
begini.
it releases special substances that inhibit the development of mold. Finally, white and soft larvae emerge. A real clump of disgusting feet and antennae. After shedding skin several times,
Geli,
young
oh, kalau
centipedes
begitu
darken
kan,
and start
geli.
crawling
Ay.
around. Ugh. Kangaroo.
Nah, kangaroo.
Many people know that the kangaroo is a
Kangaroo.
marsupial from the family Macropodidae. There are about 69 species of kangaroos in the world. They live in Australia, New Guinea, and the
Jadi
nearby
Phuket.
islands. Also, everyone
tuh
knows
kalau
that
di Phuket.
kangaroo females have a
Dia beranak
special
dari
pouch
Phuket.
where they carry their cubs. But
Dia
not
punya
everyone knows that a
kemaluan
kangaroo
Phuket
has
kali
a
kan?
very short pregnancy
itu
term.
tempat
The
tinggal.
baby is born
Wah,
about a
nah, kan
month
dia
after
bilang
conception.
dia ada kemaluan di
However,
situ
this is
Phuket
not a
dia.
grown
Terus
animal
keluar
ready
kepala
for
begini
life in
kali
the
kan.
outside
Gimana?
world.
Tuh
The
tengok,
size of a
tuh,
newborn
Phuket
kangaroo
tuh.
is only a
Hmm,
couple of centimeters, and it weighs about a gram.
Kali,
In
cok.
this embryonic state, the cub makes its way into the pouch.
Ya,
The tiny kangaroo does not
Kan
yet
di
have
badannya
hind legs,
ikatnya.
so he has to use the
Oh.
front ones. Moreover, the mother
Nah,
does not
tuh
help
paket
him. She
lama-lama
only licks the
membesar.
pad to
Oh,
the
tidak.
pouch, but the
Tonton
cub
dia pula.
immediately starts sucking on a nipple. Well, he doesn't actually
Sebenarnya.
suck it because he's not yet
Gitu.
able to. He's too small. Milk is
Kitnya.
secreted into his mouth with the help of a special muscle. Another peculiar thing about the kangaroo is that it has 4 nipples in its pouch, and each
Beda
of
apa
them
kucing di
secretes a
dalam
different
dapur
type of milk.
pocket?
So kangaroos have 4 types of milk depending on the age of the
kangaroo.
cub. Sometimes a female has 2 cubs of different age
Besar
at
lah.
once, and both are still in the pouch.
Oh,
In this
dah
case,
kan
2 kinds of
pocket
milk are
dia.
secreted.
Dan
In
dia di
about
pocket.
190 days, the cub becomes large and strong enough
Kalau
to
dia
climb
besar
out of
sudah,
the
dia boleh
pouch.
keluar sudah.
At first, he only sticks his head out,
Oh,
and this
di
can
balik
continue
ini
for
pada yang
several
cari
weeks
ninin
until the
juga.
cub feels safe enough to get out.
Coba
He then
ekor dia
starts
tebal.
spending more
Berarti
and more
buat
time in the
kalau
outside
laki itu
world,
nah
and
kalau
eventually,
jantan.
in about
Kurus,
235 days, he
Ninin dia
leaves
di
the
pocket.
pouch for the last time.
Pocket Doraemon.
Wow.
Seahorses.
Seahorse.
Perhaps seahorses
Kuda
are
laut.
one of the most unusual
Seahorse.
fish. Actually, they do not look like
Jadi
fish.
besar ya?
Rather like some kind of alien creature.
Alien.
Kan ada basi horses.
Where else would you
Ngomong
see
baju
something
kuning.
like that? But the
Iya,
most
bisa
peculiar
betul.
thing about them is their breeding, because it's the males who carry eggs. This happens after a long and thorough courtship, in course of which seahorses go
Binatang
through
apa?
several phases. In the end, when all mating dances
itu
are
jantan.
over, the
Gitu.
female passes the eggs to the male.
Dia main
He has a
bertelurr.
special pouch on his belly, where he lays eggs
cemboling,
and fertilizes them.
begini-begini.
The inner surface of the
Iya,
pouch
begini.
thickens, which helps
Oh,
protect
ada
the
telur dia sama
offspring.
tu jantan.
During pregnancy, the male seahorse lives on a certain area about 1 square meter in size and does not travel beyond its borders. The offspring remains in the pouch for 2 to 4 weeks, and then newborn seahorses are released into the water. The number of baby seahorses released by the male seahorse is on average 100 to 1,000 for
Ih,
most
banyaknya.
species.
Oh my god!
And this is not surprising, because the cubs are tiny. They can easily be eaten by a
Cute, macam
predator
ano?
or washed away by
Pari-pari.
ocean currents.
Boleh kalau
Therefore,
makan,
in order to
kasihan.
survive, seahorses
Ya.
deliver
Oh,
many
banyak
babies.
tak?
Less than 0.5% of them
Kan
survive
boleh
to
besar
adulthood.
dia.
Ya,
However,
banyak
like
tuh.
almost
Karena
all
makan
of the
ikan
types
besar
of
kali
fish,
semua.
seahorses do not care about their cubs after birth.
Dan
They
oke.
basically have to fight for
Oh,
life
macam
on
mana
their own.
balita penyu?
Sea urchins.
Macam penyu.
Oh,
Although
dia juga
all
anak
sea
kok.
urchins look
Ay,
exactly
tapi
the
kalau
same,
sampai lot
they
tidak
belong
sudah.
to dioecious organisms, meaning that it has
Dia
distinct male and
Masih lagi?
female individual organisms. Sea urchins are quite fertile. For example, a female sea urchin produces about 20 million eggs during one breeding season. Imagine if your dog had this many puppies.
God, they're adorable!
Landak laut.
Sea urchins can breed all year round, but most often they do it before the warm season.
Sumpah-sumpah nih
They
beranak.
release something like a cloud that
bukan
contains
sumpah-sumpah.
future
Apa
offspring,
tuh?
male
Star.
and female eggs.
Apa?
Of course,
Star?
other marine
Star.
creatures immediately
Star.
try to eat them, but still,
Starfish.
many eggs survive and find each other in the ocean. In a
Itu
few hours,
baik
they
kan,
turn into
binatang?
microscopic
Binatang.
balls covered with
Star.
tiny hair,
Star,
which
sila.
moves the
Star
balls in
kalau
all
tadi.
directions.
Star.
Soon they change,
Starfish.
stretch, produce a thin
Sebab-sebab
calcareous
itu, tapi lupa
skeleton,
namanya.
and form something
Star
like a
is
tiny lunar lander. It can drift
Yang
for
kamu
months,
gini,
feeding
saya
on
yang
algae
lama-lama.
along the way, and all this time a microscopic sea urchin will grow inside. In the end, it grows up enough to land in a suitable place, attach itself, and start a real adult life. Slugs. Fans of Ronald Weasley, please get away from the screen. Now we'll talk about slugs.
Ano ka?
Ulat.
Slugs have both female and male
Yeah.
reproductive organs.
Tidak
That
paham
is,
kali.
they are
Yeah.
hermaphrodites. Usually, the slug follows the mucus of another
Sebut
slug
babi tidak
and can
kaki.
even eat
Sebut
that
babi
mucus.
tidak
Then the
cakram.
slugs find each other and
Cute
begin to
juga
circle
ini.
together. And a few days after fertilization, the slug lays about 30 translucent eggs in a hole in the ground or another similar place. For example, between the stone walls or under a fallen log. The development of offspring inside the eggs takes from 3 to 5 weeks, depending on the species. In the end, completely formed tiny slugs hatch from the eggs. And perhaps, looking at them, even people who are disgusted by slugs can be touched because they are so small and cute.
Suka. Tuh. Sebut babi.
Nevertheless, slugs grow very quickly and are ready to reproduce in 2 months.
Ih,
Bees.
cute.
All the bees in the hive,
Oh,
workers,
ini,
drones, and the queen bee, emerge from eggs laid by the queen bee. There's only one queen bee for the whole family, and her death often means the death of the entire hive. The queen bee mates once in a lifetime. Its main task is to lay eggs. The rest of the work is done by working bees in the hive. One can say that all the bees in the hive are sisters and brothers on the maternal side, but at the same time, they can have different fathers. The fact is that the queen bee usually mates with several tens of drones and uses the genetic material of them all at once. Despite the difference in breeding, the birth process is the same for all bee species. Each bee goes through 3 stages: egg, larva, and pupa. The queen bee glues an egg to the bottom of a special comb.
Wow.
In 3 days, the bees put some milk in the comb to feed the larva.
Wow.
Aside from its main purpose, milk weakens the eggshell, and the larva emerges from it. The larva grows very quickly. In 3 days, its body mass increases by 250 times. Then the bees seal the combs with wax, and the next stage begins, turning into a chrysalis. The bee larva remains in a sealed form for 12 days, and then it crawls outside as an adult insect. Cichlids.
Bebas hari jauh.
African cichlids are fish from the family Cichlidae that live in the Great African Lakes. They have many different features, but cichlids are especially interesting as they carry their eggs in their mouths. And it is much more convenient than it seems at first glance. On the one hand, of course, it cannot put many eggs in its mouth. On the other hand, when the offspring of the fish is in its mouth, it's much easier to save it from predators. In any dangerous situation, cichlids can simply swim away from danger. By the way, sometimes they hold in their mouths not only eggs, but also young offspring. This way, cichlids can breed fewer children with a higher chance of survival. One should say that this method of bearing offspring is a characteristic of several species of fish and amphibians, but for some reason, cichlids are the ones who are most often mentioned in this regard.
Sama ayam. Oh, ini kuliah kartun nih kan?
That's all for today. See you soon.
Oke, jadi untuk first video yang tadi tuh udah pas tengok 10 jenis hewan kali itu. Apakah perasaan Anda?
Shock. Banyak-banyak yang paling saya shock. Tengok yang berlubang-berlubang.
Kok bilang takut?
Geli, tapi shock, tapi
Ini the
geli.
best thing.
Yang katak,
Ya, yang paling bikin geli ya kata.
paling yang katak yang first. Aduh, berpelit banget tiba.
Di sini.
Dia kempet begini kan. Ada lubang-lubang banyak men.
Sini dia punya belakang.
Jari-jari.
Sini dia keluar anak begini.
Ya, terus lompat sendiri.
Gelinya.
Yang itu kangaroo cute kayak first time nampak.
Ya.
Dia susu di situ.
Ada 4 puting sana. Dia punya pocket pula.
Ya,
Terus yang paling bikin terharu ikan. Dia taruh anaknya di sini mulut.
dia menjaga. Terus apa? Oh, dia suka ulat. Ulat
Apa yang
tidak
tadi,
kerap.
Oh, pun kita siput tadi. Soalnya tuh yang lutsinar.
Udah, dia suka pakai peragut sih.
Yikes. Asal lutsinar macam cute. Oh, cantiknya, sucinya.
Oke guys, kalau apakan
Tidak apa, tidak.
sepanjang video yang kita tengok yang banyak tuh kamu komen mana yang bertelur beranak binatang yang kamu suka yang ada di dalam itu video yang kamu rasa suka juga kamu kasih komen sejak kasih full
Yang
komen.
paling favorite kamu punya binatang.
Kalau komen benda yang macam kau tengok tuh banyak-banyakan yang macam yang kau
Yang paling kau terharu
yang
lah.
kau tuh wow di hati tuh wow oh, begitu.
Ya, jadi komen yang kau paling
Wow.
Yes, ya, komen di comment section. Oke, so
Oke guys, sampai sini saja.
jangan lupa seperti biasa
Seperti biasa,
like, share,
and
subscribe. Thank you sebab
Thank you,
kamu
guys.
sudi menonton video kami yang tak seberapa ini.
Tapi boleh lah. Kasih kamu kasih seberapa.
Oke,
Thank you guys.
bye.
Thanks for watching.